joined by a master's student in the horticulture department, Madeline Mosio. Madeline, thank you. I'm so excited to hear about your research. So microgreens, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what microgreens are first.
Microgreens, we have a media they're grown in. They root into the media. Sprouts, you grow them loose in water, normally in a jar, and you harvest them a lot earlier. You let them get to just starting to sprout out of the seed. And microgreens, you wait until they grow their first true leaves before you harvest them.
So sprouts were essentially eating the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And microgreens were really after that vegetation.
Yeah, you remove all the roots and the seeds.
Okay, so when you say the first true leaves, the cotyledons have come up, but then we've got the actual leaf of what the plant is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about your research specifically.
Mhm.
Obviously, you know how to grow them. Tell us a little bit about what you're specifically trying to investigate.
Yeah, so my first trial was growing 20 different species in the greenhouse here, where we're just trialing them, see what does best in these conditions, and just testing them out, see the highest yield and their nutrient contents. And then our second trial will be taking 6 of those cultivars and doing duplicate trials, one in a hoop house and one in a greenhouse, so we can test what does well in actual greenhouse conditions. So we just want to see what is actually possible for Oklahoma growers.
Okay, so this might be an option that a farmer market grower might be able to grow. So what are the 6 that you're specifically kind of narrowed it down to?
Yeah, so we're doing 3 cooler crops and 3 warmer crops. We chose 3 brassicas since those are generally the most common. We're doing broccoli, radish, and beets. And then the 3 warmer crops, we're doing sunflower, peas, and cilantro, as those are some of the industry standards.
Okay, I never thought about sunflowers as being a microgreen.
They're pretty popular. I mean, you eat the seeds, but you don't think about eating the plants.
No, that's fascinating. So let's talk a little bit about, okay, you've got a whole setup here and you've got different medias too. Tell me a little bit about, are you testing the media as well?
No, so not in this study.
Okay.
So we have some of the industry standards for media here. So this is a cocoa coir mat. You might see hemp mats or something of the sort. They are really easy to use because you just buy them to fit a 10-20 tray and just set them in there. These ones are a little annoying because they are really hydrophobic. So if I take this one that's completely dry, so this is what they'll come as. You can buy them for different size trays, so that's pretty handy. But if I put water on it, it just beads off. It doesn't absorb any of that.
So it takes a long time to really soak in that moisture.
Yeah, these you have to soak for about overnight to get them to actually usable.
Okay.
We have these that are hydroponic growing mats. They're pretty handy as well. They don't take nearly as long to soak. They absorb water just much easier, but once they're wet, they become really delicate and they tear really easily.
Okay.
So these ones you can pick up as a whole and the plants will stay attached and you can see all the roots. But these ones, once they're wet, they have to stay in the tray. You can't really mess with them too much.
Is one easier to harvest out of than the other?
I would say these are the easier options than something like a soilless media, which is another standard. These, it takes a little bit more work to clean the plants. The media sticks to them as they grow up, so you have to wash them off before you can sell them. These, there's nothing really to stick to the plants, so you can just cut them off.
So maybe a little more sanitary with the fiber mix and stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Can you show us a little bit about how maybe a home grower might be able to do this also?
Yeah, so this is something you'll have more for bigger production systems. This is something that's a lot more accessible for a home grower.
Okay.
So these are just 5x5 trays, or even these little clamshells you'll get leftovers in. For a 10-20 tray, we would just take one of our mats. This one's pre-soaked, and so you can normally measure microgreens just with a teaspoon. So we will do one here. Broccoli is probably one of the most common. So here's some of my broccoli seeds. And then for broccoli, for 10x20 tray, you want to do about 6 teaspoons. It's quite a lot.
Okay.
So
you want them really densely packed in. I mean, that's pretty, that is not a normal seeding rate for
no, definitely
greens,
not.
right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things with microgreens. If you want to let these go a little longer and turn them into greens, with the way you plant them, you can't really do that super well. So if you let them go too long and start getting large leaves, this one here is kind of at that stage.
Have you put any fertilizers on these or anything to kind of, initially get them started? I mean, they are so young still.
So in theory, the seed contains enough energy for the plant to get to this stage. They don't need any fertilizer. You can grow them perfectly fine without any fertilizer, but it can help. So one of the benefits of a commercial mix like this BM2 is that it has nutrients in it. So
Okay.
they're a little bigger. You can get a little more yield out of a tray. They will be a little bigger, but it's absolutely not necessary.
And for your research, what are you going to be evaluating?
So for these, we will do height and we will just do yield and weight. So we will cut the whole tray down and measure just the yield.
Okay. All right. So now you've got your seed spread in there, adding a little water.
A lot of people recommend against top watering. That's where you might not want a tray with no holes in the bottom. So what you can do is take one of these trays, that 10-20 trays that has holes, and place it inside, not quite fit, but bigger tray underneath it, and water into that bigger tray.
So
the
it's
bottom
so
part of the
that
plants.
okay. Yeah.
The seeds, they don't really like light very much.
Okay.
You'll want to cover it with something else. So this is just a vermiculite.
Okay.
It's pretty commonly used. You can use something like perlite. You want it pretty thin, just enough to cover, and it's not directly necessary. These ones were grown without that media on top. Brassicas are a lot more resistant to that, but when you get into some specialty ones, they need it.
Okay.
So one of the other things you can do is, instead of that vermiculite, is you can just take a separate tray and set it on top. And that works as well.
That makes sense, right? You're just trying to exclude the light,
Mhm.
essentially.
So you generally want to do that just until they start to emerge, germinate, get a little tall, like half inch or start. But if you leave that on too long, they're going to start looking pretty ugly. They're going to be searching for light,
Right.
and that can kill them.
Okay. Now I also see the clear tray. So are you trying to, like any seedling, kind of keep that humidity up around them?
Yeah. So big thing with microgreens is, I mean, they like to stay wet because they're so dense. That can bring rot in. So you don't want to leave the top on too long. That's what happened with this tray. Why they're a little funky, a little ugly, but once they start to emerge, something like this is when you might want to start taking the mat off.
Okay.
But
So that's the cotyledons on that first
yes,
tray,
so
right?
these are cotyledons, and as you can see, they're just barely starting to put out their next set of true leaves. These ones too. So this is a pretty good looking tray of broccoli.
Okay.
That's probably got a couple more days before that's ready, but this one's going to be ready soon.
Okay. And so you just take scissors and harvest, essentially?
Yeah. So what you'll want to do for these, the reason it's easier for the mat is you can just pull the whole mat up and cut it that way. For these ones, since in mat. For the ones in soil, it's a little harder. You normally have to harvest them in the tray, but this is a matted one. So you can take them and just cut it at the bottom and you'll get your little sprouts. So one of the benefits of microgreens is they're much more nutrient dense than the larger version. So a common one is cilantro. This is a big, healthy cilantro plant, but if you harvest them when they're this small, per cup, you're getting way more nutrients, and the nutrient density is higher, but it's also much easier for your body to take in. So it's much more usable.
Well, Madeline, thank you so much. This has been very informative, and I appreciate the demonstration to show homeowners how to do this also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.